After a one-year experiment, the JJ Peterka era is over in Utah. Was it a bad fit, a bad move, or a bad beat for Peterka? And speaking of beats, you're going to want to hang around for this one. It's coming up on this episode of SLC Puck, so cue the music, because here we go. Here it comes. What's up, everybody? Welcome to SLC Puck. I'm your host, Austin Facer. How are you guys doing, by the way? How are you enjoying boiling alive in your homes? That's what I'm experiencing, and I'm having a shootload of fun. I forget the kids listen to the show for some reason, so I need to dial it back. Let me just adjust my set there. Don't want you guys to see the moves we're making back here. Yeah, gosh, 100 degrees right now. Welcome to August, by the way. Blazing hot here in the Salt Lake Valley. And it's what better day than today for the air conditioning in my apartment to go out. So I will probably be spending the evening in a hotel room, which will be fun, right? Little room service, little mini bar. You know, maybe I'll really splurge and go for like Courtyard Marriott or something like that. Should be a ton of fun, but we got to get out of the heat. It's been crazy. I want to talk about JJ Peterka today. All right, I know you guys are like, hey, Austin, get over it. The guy doesn't play for the frickin' Mammoth anymore. You know, it didn't pan out. He wasn't the electric superstar, you know, in what do you call it? In vitro? Is that a word? Is that how you say it? That we thought he was going to be. You know, he was a good player, right? But he, you know, it didn't pop the way we were hoping when we sent Michael Kesselring and Josh Doan over to Buffalo for him last summer. Yeah, you're right. All those things are true. I'm going to dive more into the details, but it's an episode I want to do. And it's an episode that I think is important. And it's an episode that, again, the concept for which just came out of the sky to me today. It actually, you know where it actually did appear to me? It was at Shields in Sandy. No, it wasn't Shields? Yeah, it must have been Shields. Yeah, it was actually right by the Mammoth merchandise fan section at Shields. And before I go into this story, let me just tell you guys, I am so famous. I am literally so famous, guys. I had not one, not two, but three people stop me, you know, just to tell me how much they admire me, how much they enjoy the show, you know, how much they treasure, you know, what we do here at SLC Puck. Again, this happened 3 times this afternoon, so I was like, all right, this is not good for my occasionally overinflated ego, but I'm very appreciative of it. So let me just say that. But my first celebrity interaction of the day, I bumped into my guy Kemper at Shields, and he's like, Austin, I'm looking forward to next season. I'm like, dude, me too. And he's like, I got to tell you though, like, I think it's gonna be tough. I think you're right. And I'm like, dude, I think I'm always right. You know, you know. Thanks for agreeing. He's like, you know, and you know, it was challenging, you know, to get to the playoffs last year. It was a great accomplishment. Some things went well, some things, you know, didn't go so well. This is Kemper here. I'm paraphrasing, and he's like, listen, you know, I think the JJ Peterka thing was kind of an interesting sort of disappointment, I guess you could say, for the team last year. I think it just wasn't a good fit. And I'm like, Kemper, dude, for one, I'm going to give you a shout out on the show. And for two, I agree with you. I totally do. And thank you, Kemper. You have now given me the foundation for today's episode. So big thanks to my guy Kemps out there. I agree. You know, I think that overarching thesis, I think, is just kind of self-evident, right? It's evident, for one, what we saw towards the end of the season out of JJ Peterka. He just disappeared. He was a virtual non-factor. I think you could even say he was like a net negative in the playoffs. So you could say the biggest games of the year last season for the Utah Mammoth, the biggest games in the franchise's history. The guy they traded a couple of pretty somewhat interesting pieces away to land and then signed to a 5-year contract was horrible at the end of the year and in the biggest games. I do want to be fair to JJ Peterka though. I think a lot of this was sort of it was probably really disappointing for him too. And I think my assumption is he felt a lot of frustration in the role he was given in Utah. And I think that is somewhat evident as well when you look at kind of how the season played out. You consider like what happened over the course of the Mammoth, campaign. I think you can look at a couple benchmarks and a couple of key stats and really sort of hone in on what exactly went wrong for JJ Peterka. And just to be clear, I'm going to say this again. I don't think JJ Peterka is a bad player. I think the jury is still out on whether or not this was a bad move, but I think it's just one of those things where like both parties can benefit from a change in scenery, so to speak. A change in scenery, a change in sweater, a change in, I guess, cuisine, right? Like, I mean, how different is like the food in Boston from Salt Lake City, Utah? I when I think about like, the experience these NHL guys have, like playing from city to city, traveling around, a lot of my thoughts just go to food. And I got to say, I got to tell you, if I were in the NHL, and again, it's appalling that I remain undrafted still, after all these years. But if I were in the NHL, like that would be something that I would be thinking about. And I know all these guys have their favorite restaurants in each city. I don't know if the Vultures thing has caught on in the NHL the way that it has in the NBA. Vultures Osteria, by far the NBA's favorite restaurant in Salt Lake City. Again, I don't know if the NHL's figured that one out yet. I'd be curious to get an insight on that. But anyway, that's a long detour on food. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's important though. Like think about like how different, like it's so easy to get a lobster roll in Boston, get some clam chowder. Oh my God. I had the best bowl of clam chowder the other day. It was absolutely not like a knockout. It was unreal. It was at Hook and Reel in West Valley, Utah, of all places. My assumption is the clam chowder in West Valley, Utah may not be as good as the clam chowder in Boston. That's just a hunch. So that's good for JJ. If he's a clam chowder guy, you're going to the place to be. But Utah was not the place for JJ, and the situation, like, just kind of it was fine. It was good actually, to start the year. I think of JJ Peterka's season last year, like in terms of just images. And the one that stands out in my mind is I believe it was opening night. The first night, we saw, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was preseason. It might have been opening night of the regular season, but it's the first game with the team branding. The Mammoth are out. I'm pretty sure this was the first night of the regular season. Now that I think about it, Tusky gets unthawed out of the ice. Utah playing Calgary, the Rod Anderson Super Bowl. Rod's a great listener of the show, by the way. And one of the most enduring images in my mind of that game is JJ Peterka scoring and hitting a celly right in front of Ryan Smith. Just this unbelievably iconic photo of Ryan Smith going freaking nuts. JJ Peterka right in front of him celebrating a big goal. Like, what a night, what a moment for JJ Peterka. That might be Apex Mountain for him in Utah, because I think at that point, there were valleys for sure. There were valleys and a few more peaks, but it got progressively very flat, so to speak, and vallyified. We invent new words here towards the end of the year, but it's a considerable drop off. I think just when you look at if you're judging this just off the numbers, it's a considerable drop off in terms of production. JJ Peterka coming from Boston, now he's in Boston, coming from Buffalo to Utah, right? He scores 68 points as a member of the Buffalo Sabres in 24-25, second leading scorer on a bad Buffalo team. Still young guy. He's like, 23 at that time. He scores 18 power plays for Buffalo. He gets 68 points for Buffalo overall for the season. Dips down to 47 last year with Utah, a 21-point dip. And I think this next stat I think is very telling for exactly what went wrong for JJ. It was really like a huge reduction in his role. He went from 18 power play points with the Buffalo Sabres the year before to just 5 with Utah. And I am almost unimpeachably, again, I'm making up words, no idea if that's a word, positive that JJ Peterka never skated once with the first power play unit with the Utah Mammoth. If he did, it would have been few and far between, if at all. But the guy saw a very reduced role in Utah. That was readily apparent. Utah, they get this guy, they see the points. He's like 68 points. This guy's crazy fast. He can score from distance. I remember very clearly that was something that Bill Armstrong touted about Peterka right after the trade. They're like, hey, we like the fact that this guy is a frickin' sniper. We saw that at times. But again, I don't think he was fully taken off of the leash at times to be that player. What they really got, I think they were hoping they would get like something that was in between Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley with speed and shooting. The numbers show that that's just not what they got. But I think there are some other things to keep in mind too. He's playing with Buffalo the year before. It's a bad team. They missed the playoffs. The whole town's in the shitter. It's already kind of tough to be in Buffalo, right? The Bills are a perennial disappointment. They break people's hearts there all the time. It's cold as shit. Who knows? Maybe their clam chowder isn't as good as the one in Boston. You can only eat buffalo wings so many times. Just imagine how much blue cheese is coursing through the literal gene pool of Buffalo, New York. It's in people's bloods. It's bad for you. You shouldn't have blue cheese in your blood. But JJ Peterka's there, and he's the big dog. He's a big dog in a smaller pool, I guess you could say, if we're talking about like a team in terms of talent. He then goes to a different pool, and his fishiness, the size of his fish, gets much smaller. Just 25 goals. That's certainly not nothing to shake a tail at, shake a stick at, shake a tail. What are we, dogs? But the bulk of his production came early on, and as adversity hit the team, and as the team kind of found its groove and then found itself towards the end of the year and heated up and then entered the playoffs, Peterka got worse. It's just borne out by the facts. I do think that we can take some comfort in the return that we get from a dip in JJ Peterka's production from the previous year. Shipping him away to Boston led to, receiving 2 first-round picks. That became Sebastian Costa. We'll see how that pans out for the Utah Mammoth. He's set to be Karel Vejmelka's backup next season. So if we can get a solid, sort of welcome to the big time, you're a backup goalie kind of season, you're legit, we can trust you in net kind of season from Sebastian Costa, we should feel much better about, the whole Josh Doan, Michael Kesselring, JJ Peterka situation. It's crazy, it all connects, but Sebastian Costa's season is going to help us evaluate these trades from 2 summers previous and then this summer as well. I guess just 1 summer previous. But again, I think for Peterka, you look at it, you go, all right, so we send Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring. We try to get this guy. I think it's pretty damn obvious at this point Buffalo won that trade. And I think that may have surprised Utah a lot. I kind of think, a lot of people think that and this is where I'm going to be just totally, completely opinionated. I'm going to be totally hypothetical. I'm going to be totally just like, this is not born in any solid report. Don't think for a second that I have any idea truthfully what I'm talking about. I'm just going to be, this is complete conjecture right here. But like, I don't think Bill Armstrong thought super highly of Josh Doan. And that is purely an opinion. Let me just flesh it out for you so you guys can understand, right? Think about this. Josh Doan, drafted by the Arizona Coyotes. What was it? It must have been in the 2022 draft. Second rounder. Connection there's obvious. Doan, Arizona Coyotes. What, are you talking about Shane Doan? No, it's his son, Josh Doan. He played at the University of Arizona. At that time, when that's happening, what the hell else is happening in Arizona? A whole lot of brouhaha regarding the team's, future in that market. They're the incredibly unstable situation. There's a seemingly perpetual war between the citizens of Arizona and its government against Coyotes ownership. They can't find a permanent home. Like this, it's bad. This is almost like the breaking point for the Coyotes at this point. What do? They draft Josh Doan. Josh Doan, I think, has now proven himself to be a very capable NHL player, and that is borne out by the fact that he signed like a big fat juicy contract this last season after starting on fire and kind of keeping it up for the most part with the Buffalo Sabres. He signed like a big fat 7-year, maybe just under $6 million contract. Check me on that if I'm wrong. But again, think about that. He comes into Arizona. Bill Armstrong at the time, he's like, listen, I already have like a dog shit roster. This feels a little bit like a publicity stunt. This feels like something to, foster some sense of goodwill and continuity. And, hey, we are bridging the gap from one Coyotes era where Shane Doan is in the desert playing hockey here, in the AZ for 20 years. And hey, look at this. His son's in a Coyotes sweater as well. Hey, that must mean we got another 20 years in the tank here. It might have felt like that for Bill Armstrong. And I'm guessing that that's kind of like a feeling that could cause some, I don't know, I don't want to say resentment, but like some like frustration, I think. Was I following the Coyotes very carefully then at the time? I wasn't. So again, this is all just conjecture. I'm just guessing. Josh Doan, obviously, I think he has a way of surprising Bill Armstrong. He makes his NHL debut as a rookie that season, scores 2 goals in his first game. He earns a spot with Utah out of training camp to start the season with the hockey club, Utah HC. He doesn't play great coming out of the gates. He's sent down to Tucson. He then plays his way back into the NHL and finishes very strong with Utah. And like I said, I think he has a way of like surprising this Bill Armstrong. But I think Bill Armstrong is kind of like, I'm tired of being surprised by this guy. And like, I honestly wasn't fully on board. I fully wasn't convinced that this was a guy who was going to make the hockey club better. This was just, maybe it was like an ownership directive to draft this guy. He was going to be available. Let's get him. Let's placate our fan base. Let's keep them excited about the team and, create the illusion that we're going to have some sort of stability here. And, maybe it's all conjecture. Maybe those feelings led to him being traded to Buffalo. They also send Michael Kesselring in the same deal. And I'll be honest, I thought that was too much. I thought that was a lot. And now I think looking back, we can say that was definitely too much. Michael Kesselring had a horrible year with Buffalo, injured for a large part. But he still is a part of a trade that brings back a first-round pick to Buffalo, who sent him away to San Jose this last season. So he's not a guy who doesn't have value. Big body. I think he skates really well for his size. I think he's got a freaking rocket of a shot. Hit a 104 mile per hour slap shot with the Utah Hockey Club. Right-handed defenseman. Like I think Michael Kesselring got a bad beat with Utah. I think he deserved a better shake. But again, those two guys go out. JJ Peterka comes in because I think he is someone that they look at and they say, listen, this is a guy, good player on a bad team, and he's so young and he's got so many like desirable skills, and we see shades of Logan Cooley in him. We see shades of Dylan Gunther in him. Oh my gosh, it's almost as if those two guys, like, we could take their DNA and fuse them into one, and then we could put all three of them on a line. And that worked, by the way. That was a winning formula to start the year for the Utah Mammoth. Things got much more complicated, though, in the middle of the season. And I think you can see JJ Peterka's season really played out that way, okay? I don't know if you guys remember this because you guys have the memory of goldfish, okay? Which I love so much. I love that you guys don't remember anything because then I get to explain it again, and that's easy to fill the time. But look here. I mean, we remember the trajectory of the Utah Mammoth season, right? The Tusky era, right out the gates, very fun. I believe they went 7-0 to start the year, scoring a lot of goals. JJ Peterka is a big part of that. I remember our good friend Jazzy Pinkman made a 7711, graphic, with the 7-Eleven logo, because Peterka, Gunther, that seems to be working pretty well, right? Again, hit the Sally in front of Ryan Smith. What a night. The stats show that was kind of the peak of JJ Peterka's season. We'll break it down month by month as his season went. 10 points in October, excuse me. They didn't play in August. It's August right now. October of last year, a dip in November. The whole team took a dip then, if you remember. That was a rough time for the Utah Mammoth. They were slumping in a big way. They were on the road a lot. I think they had like a 5 or 6 game losing streak. I thought Andre Turney was dead in the water for a little bit, but that was the kind of the low point of the Utah Mammoth season. December, that was an interesting month, if you remember. Logan Cooley gets injured. His knee connects with the goal. He's out 6 weeks. He misses from December 6th or something all the way through the Olympic break. JJ Peterka, I think, picks up some slack there, right? The slack that was given with the slack that was created in November, helps Utah stay in games. I would imagine his time on ice went up considerably in December. He takes probably a bigger role. He feels like, kind of elevates his game a bit, as the whole team was forced to do with Logan Cooley's absence. He helps them stay alive in January as well. So through the first 55 games of the season last year, Peterka is a good player. He is a very solid 23-year-old hockey player in the National Hockey League. 37 points through the first 55 games. Again, you're going to love this. This is where I do math. It's one of my strong suits here on the show. Good for 0.67 points per game. Not too bad. I got that one out pretty good. It's after they get back from the Olympics and they play out the rest of the season and they go to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know what the hell he was doing during the Olympics. He was playing, right? He suited up for Germany. I don't know what went wrong for him in Germany, because in Italy playing for Germany, but he was horrific the rest of the year. February gets just 1 point for the entire month. Again, they played a lot fewer games in February due to the Olympics, but just 1 point in February. Only 5 for the entire month of March, a critical stretch for the Utah Mammoth, and then just 4 in those 2 weeks in April. But here's what's really concerning about this, and I'm certain that this is something that the Utah management found very disturbing as well. These are the most important games of JJ Peterka's hockey career. Coming out of the Olympics, you're with your NHL club. They are battling to get back in playoff contention, and they're riding a wave. At one point, they capture, the wild card spot. They go into the playoffs, and dude, you were not a factor. You couldn't find a way to get into the game. Just 10 points over the final 27 games of the regular season for JJ Peterka, which cuts his points per game production almost in half. Like it's just abysmal. It was shocking to look at the numbers and just see how far he had dropped off. But, you know, again, just to take like another look, first 20 games of the season, 15 points. The second 20 games, 21 through 40, 13 points. Put that together, 28 points over 40 games. That's very respectable. And then, yeah, coming back from the Olympics, his ice time goes down a lot. I think Andre Tourigny lost a lot of confidence in him as the season went on. His time on ice decreased by almost 2 whole minutes from that second 20-game stretch to the third 20-game stretch. You know, he kept himself afloat, you know, with 10 points in that stretch. So not a tremendous dip with less ice time. But then again, by the end of the season, like his ice time was down like more than 3 minutes from what it was when he was playing at his peak. So his peaks were high. His valleys were very, very low. Again, we just cut it in half here. First 40 games of the season, 28 points, and then the final 42, just 19. That jumps off the page. And I think what also hurt him a lot, and I pulled these numbers from Hockey Report Stats, whatever that website's called. I can't remember it now off the top of my head. But you know, the other thing that was really concerning about JJ Peterka was he could have these swings really, really close to each other in the middle of the season. I think that like that violent swing from having like a terrific game, like let's say a great example is that Anaheim game in December 3rd. They're at the pond. They put up 7 goals, a touchdown, and an extra point on the old Duckaroos. JJ Peterka, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4-point game. That was his season high. He does it in just 15 minutes, 12 seconds on the ice. That website gave him a game score that was among one of the highest in the National Hockey League at that time, 5.88, according to their math formula. I don't know what the hell it is, but listen, huge swing. 7 days later, a whole week later, Utah's at home playing the Florida Panthers. They're trying to defend the honor of our city, our cuisine. I guess they didn't tell them about how good the clam chowder in West Valley is, but Florida kind of dog-walked. Florida beat Utah. I almost said dog-walked. It would have been cat-walked, would have been better, but I don't remember a ton about this game. I was just looking at the box score. Utah loses this one 4-3 to the defending Stanley Cup champions, but JJ Peterka, very, very disappointing outing, according to this website. His game score, and then again, compare this to where he was the week before. His game score against Florida, negative 3.09. So, like, according to their scale, that's a huge deviation from where you are the week before. Where you're the best player on the ice to where you're now one of the worst, and you're playing against a team that just won the Stanley Cup. I mean, Florida was not a Stanley Cup champion last season. Really, you know, they dealt with so many injuries, but that's a look at the next level. That's a look at the system. It's a look at a lot of the same guys that you would have to face if you want to reach that elite tier in the NHL. And Peterka just shrunk. He shrunk. I think that is like a very fair evaluation of his season last year. He shrunk. He got progressively smaller as the season went on. His role went down. His time on the ice went down. His point production went down. I don't think he was like necessarily a horrible player at any point. I mean, he did have some lowlights. The turnovers in the playoffs, he gets benched in game 3 or 4. Didn't play great, but you know, I think you can also say like in certain ways he became a better defensive player than he had been the year before in Buffalo. Again, there's evidence that supports that. So, you know, on Buffalo, you know, opposing teams scored against him, you know, when he was on the ice 83 times. He's only a victim of 43 goals against when in a Utah Mammoth sweater. So it's a big drop off there, right? The points production goes down on his end, but so does the opposing team's production as well. That there could be a number of factors for that. I think JJ Peterka certainly had better defensive teammates in Utah than he had the year before in Buffalo. Certainly a better goaltender in Karel Vejmelka, but you know, I think you can give him a little bit of credit for his defensive play as well. But I think like he was with a better team. He was with a better team, and I think that's the way it goes. And At the end of the day, though, like, he may have become a better defensive player just by nature of like association, just by osmosis almost with the guys in the Utah Mammoth locker room and being on the ice with them and, you know, going out to dinner, getting clam chowder in West Valley, all that. But it's really the playoffs that I think people are going to judge JJ Peterka on. 0 points, 6 games, gets benched halfway through. You know, I think he said afterwards, you know, he's like, he wasn't happy with his own play. He felt like he had way more to give. That's something you can't say in the playoffs. I believe it was an exact quote. Like, I have more to give. You're in the playoffs. This is the biggest game of your life. I understand you were just in the Olympics. You're Germany. You weren't going to play for the gold. You didn't play for the gold, just so you know. You were with Buffalo last year, and you guys sucked. You are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is the biggest stage of your hockey playing career, and you're saying that you have more to give. You're not emptying the tank. You know who is not going to like that? The guy who just traded for you and, you know, gave up a couple of pieces that one of which he saw become very valuable in Buffalo, playing a team that, by the way, did win their first playoff series. Bill Armstrong, I'm sure, saw that play. He saw that quote in the media. He's like, this is not working. And this hasn't been working for a few months. And I don't know how much longer we can sink into this. So I get it. I think moving on from JJ Peterka is the right idea. I think they can be very pleased with like what they got back for him. You know, they got back, you know, what eventually became Sebastian Cossa. You know, that was a trade with Detroit, but that was facilitated by the trade to Boston, which saw a couple of first rounders come Utah's way. So in a way, like, it all connects, right? You know, we're going to judge this by Sebastian Cossa, like what Utah gets. So again, just a reminder, like, Utah trades JJ Peterka for the 23rd overall pick and a 2028 first round selection, from Boston. They then swing those to Detroit for Sebastian Cossa and a future first round pick. So that's where Utah's at right now, just to refresh your memory. But, you know, I guess we'll see. It's a decent exit. It's a decent return for what was a disappointing season. If Sebastian Cossa ends up shitting the bed, you know, and like is a guy who is not reliable for Utah by any stretch, if he's a guy who can't give Utah 25, 30 quality starts, and they have to find another option mid-season for goaltending help, then man, that trade to Buffalo to bring in JJ Peterka for Josh Dellin and Michael Kesselring, that looks more inexplicable, more bad. We're really good at speaking English here. More bad for the Utah Mammoth, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. If I had to grade the deal today, to grade the JJ Peterka era, I would give it a C. Like, I feel like pretty, like, yeah, like, whatever, you know, let's move on about it. You know, we're not flunking the class. You know, we didn't scramble for a B. You know, we didn't hustle to you know, get you know, stretch beyond ourselves. I feel like that's a B, right? B is when you put a little effort in. You're like, yeah, B. All right, cool. Yeah, it was worth it. Yeah, all right. A is when things go over the top. It's a perfect natural fit, or you really hustle. You really get something out of nothing, or something out of a lot less. They certainly didn't get that for JJ Peterka. So I think C feels right. Again, like, the way trades shake out, you know, like, we'll have to evaluate it again a year from now, 5 years from now. Maybe JJ Peterka ends up being a Hart Trophy winner in Boston and gets, you know, a bowl of clam chowder named after him. Then we'd evaluate this completely differently, right? And then that would be a different kind of black mark on Utah. But I think right now, you know, that's kind of a look at what happened, right? JJ Peterka gets a much smaller role in Utah than he got in Buffalo, and didn't kick it in the ass. You know, he didn't force Andre Tourigny to put him in the same role he was in Buffalo. He did the opposite. He like kind of forced him to give him an even smaller role as the season went on. And if you're not growing, you're shrinking. There's no such thing as homeostasis in nature. It's if you're not growing, you're shrinking. You're not leveling out. You're up, you're down. That's it. Only options. JJ's down. Can't have that. We're a team going up. Get out. Sebastian Cossa, you're in. Let's see what you can do. Oh, you're dipping. Get out. That's kind of what it has to be. So, you know, that's where I'm at with JJ. I feel the same way as my good friend Kemper. You know, we spoke at Shields, and I think he was right on the money. But I just wanted to stretch out his thoughts and my thoughts a little bit. By the way, how famous am I? I'm so talented too, man. So talented, but I'm not nearly as talented as JJ Peterka, and I'm not just talking about JJ Peterka's abilities on the ice. He's a better hockey player than me. I am willing to give him that. Maybe that's why I haven't been drafted yet. But JJ Peterka is also a man of many talents. I don't know how many people know about this. I'm guessing less than you might think. But if you hung around for the whole episode here, I've got a real treat for you. This may surprise you about JJ Peterka, and I'd like to end this by giving JJ Peterka a compliment. This is a big compliment. I absolutely love what he does as a passion project, like a hidden talent. And again, I don't know how many people know about this. I can tell by the number of followers he has on Instagram for this particular account that not too many people are aware of this. But JJ Peterka is actually quite fond of spinning on the ones and twos. Look at this. He goes by DJ Turks. This is him in front of his turntable here. I gotta say, I like it. I like the look. I think he looks freaking awesome, you know, with the headphones on, you know, putting together a mix. This works. If you were to tell me that this is like a world-class European DJ, I would go, yeah, of course that is. He's got the vibes. And honestly, I would imagine when it comes to that industry, fitting the look is as important as anything else. But I do think he also has some talent on the ones and twos. Again, this is clearly like he's in his apartment here. This is on an ironing board. I'm just now realizing right now that he's got his turntable set up on an ironing board in what is surely his apartment in when was this? January 6th. So this was in Utah. That's hilarious. That's how passionate this guy is. He gets the ironing board out to work on his craft. And we can see here he is in action. We'll pipe in a little bit of sound. This is JJ enjoying this off season. Again, he's on the ones and twos. It looks so natural. I would imagine. I don't know how to DJ. I think it's cool. I think that's like, again, if you're a guy who looks like JJ Peterka, like that, being a DJ makes perfect sense. The guy is handsome. Like there's no other way around it. It works. But I think he's also pretty good. I'm going to show you here. I've got his SoundCloud pulled up. He's got all of his mixers here. I would love it if we could take this opportunity to support our good friend DJ Turks and throw some more followers his way. Because again, I think it's crazy how few people know about this, but like he's really passionate about this, and he only has 49 followers, which I think is nuts for a guy who's about to make $6 million a year playing hockey for the Boston Bruins. Like that's crazy to me. But like the guy can put it down. The guy can absolutely spin. Let's tune in. This is Turk's Afro. This is Afrobeat Set Volume 1. Deep House is the tag on his SoundCloud. I gotta say, I dig it. I like it. I like it a lot. I think the guy can absolutely rip some records. I don't know all the slang. Spin. I know spin. He can absolutely spin. He's got some like good samples going here. Listen, if you told me JJ Peterka was going to be DJing at a club, I would pay the cover to listen to the just on the sheer music. I think it's good. I really do. And hey, if what we got from the JJ Peterka era in Utah was like an appreciation for house music, I think it was worth it. Anyway, listen, I'm not going to close out with our typical SLC Puck music. I just turned my microphone down. We're not going to tune out with our SLC Puck music. JJ Turks is going to take us out. Like, comment, subscribe, follow DJ Turks. And we'll see you guys soon.